Hello, everybody, and welcome to True Crime Banter, the podcast aimed at bringing you your dose of murder relaxation. So, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. What a root-toot-tootin' little dog that is. If anybody is following us on Instagram, you'll know what that is about. We're talking about little teats over here. Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to another episode of the True Crime Banter podcast.
Yes.
How's everyone doing tonight?
A nice audio welcome to everybody.
A beautiful audio welcome.
We are not doing a video one this time.
No.
Right?
We didn't do a video one last time either for the microdose because we are kind of in the process. I will say that we are in the process of changing things around or moving things around, getting things figured out.
Mess, you guys.
And I think what we're going to be doing is adding some recessed lighting.
Yeah.
And I'm stoked for doing that.
That's like the first dip our toe into the millions of home projects yet to come. So we're going to start small, but we're not doing the visual one today because of me. You can blame that on me, which is fine.
I'm going to blame it on you.
You know, like when you just want to look homeless, you know, and not have to like wear anything on your face.
Honestly, every day for me.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing here. I'm recovering from a slight sunburn / chemical peel gone wrong. So I'm just coating myself in Aquaphor and being ugly in private. But don't worry, guys. I will still verbally perform for you today.
Thank you so much.
That I can guarantee.
You will be taking control of the episode again today.
Yep. That's what I do.
Before we get into a bit of banter, do you want to talk about what this case is going to be about?
No, but I will give a teaser. Okay. I'm not going to talk what it's going to be about at all. I can't give it away.
Okay.
So a guilty conscience leads police to a gruesome discovery that will haunt them and the people of China for years to come. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
That's pretty much all I can give you without giving it away, because it'll be too obvious. So you'll just have to see.
All right. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, before we get into that, let's go over a little bit of banter.
Let's do it.
And I gotta say, we have a discussion probably every other day where you talk about how type A I am, and how I just need things to be either in order or not in control of things, but I like things how they should be. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I've been in a really weird brain fog episode the last week. So the other day at work, I lost my wallet, or I thought I lost my wallet or left it at home.
Yeah.
And I think we were going to buy dinner or something.
Which to you is like a big thing.
Yeah, because
I lose it at least 10 times a day.
And you have 7 wallets.
You lose it once every 10 years. So
yeah, and so this was the one
pretty
time
disturbing when it happens to you. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. It was a situation where it actually fell in between the seats of my truck. And it is what it is. You know, I couldn't find it the first time I looked for it, whatever. Well, then the other day, Friday night, finally home for the weekend, and I can't find my keychain, my keys. I have a separate keychain with all the other keys that I use, and then I have my truck key separately, and I couldn't find that either. And I spent 2 hours looking for it. I drove all the way back to work to find them sitting on the ground outside. And I'm
my God.
What is going on with me?
I didn't know that, actually.
Oh.
No, you didn't tell me that part.
Which is, a good thing that I was like, you know what, I'm just going to drive back to work and see if I dropped them somewhere because it has the key to my work.
That's funny because I almost made fun of you for doing it, but it turns out that it worked out for you.
Oh, for driving all the way back?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, I'm losing it for some reason.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, the weather's beautiful right now here in Washington. It's 90 degrees, sunny, not too humid. I was like, I'm going to go to the basketball court. So I do that. I pack up my headphones. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to enjoy some music, get some shots up. I get to the basketball court, and I don't know where my little baggie with my headphones are at. So I thought, again, maybe I left them at home. Maybe I packed them away in a backpack somewhere that I don't know, can't find, or I thought I made a mistake, right? Well, I come home, I can't find them. Today, still can't find them. I go out to my truck, still can't find them. And so I think to myself, what did I do before I went to the basketball court yesterday? And I took the garbage out to the dumpster. So I went to the dumpster, and sure enough, my little baggie with my headphones.
Ew.
I've got like a lock for the gym, a few other items, all sitting right at the bottom of the dumpster.
Gross.
And I'm like, what is... I'm having a moment, and so I wanted to use this bit of banter to preface to people that I'm a little brain foggy today, and so if
That's okay.
it sounds like I'm a tool bag.
Listen, you can't, I mean, that wouldn't be anything new, but you can't, you can't dog on yourself like this.
Well,
I mean, you kind of got to just be like, listen, I'm just going to be an idiot for a little bit, and then I'll be
Yeah.
fine. When you're on it all the time,
I've just been an idiot for so long, though.
no, you've been put together enough for the both of us. So this is you probably needing a break. I'll take over for a little bit. It's fine. I'm not doing this forever, so don't get comfortable.
Thank you so much.
I'll help out.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if there's other people that have
Oh, yeah.
situations. I mean, obviously, like you talked about, you said you lose your wallet
Yeah.
like, often. Not
Right.
like lose it, you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
misplace it, you know?
Yep.
But I wonder, are there people out there that are very much like me, where it's like I got a place for everything. Everything has a reason for where it's at. And then for some reason, in a 4-day span, I'm just like a shit show. And
Yeah.
I think I need to reevaluate what's going on in my
I
life.
think you need a good old nap.
Ooh.
Good
All
old
right, well,
fashioned
thank you
nap.
everybody for listening to this episode of True. No,
I will be taking over now.
exactly. All right, well, now that that's taken care of, you want to go over some shout outs?
Yes, let's see here. You have one or two? One, right?
Yeah, I got
Okay.
one.
So I did reach out to a couple people on Instagram that messaged me because we didn't really get too many comments. We got some comments, but they weren't pertaining to certain cases. They were just like comments about other stuff. So
Right, yeah.
it's awesome that we're interacting, but I didn't feel like it pertained to this. So I'm like, that's still cool, you know? So I'll leave that like that. But as far as messages go.
Which, by the way, you always reply to those people anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you
yeah,
reply to
yeah.
almost every single comment out
Yeah,
there.
I really
so.
try. Yeah. And then sometimes, like today, there's people interacting on our page that had nothing to do with us. They were like talking to each other about like recommending stuff to each
Well,
other.
good. I mean, that's
So I was
always...
like, oh, okay, I'll just let you
Hell
be.
No, I mean, that would be awesome
Yeah.
if, you know, our page turns into a little hub.
It
it
is kind of cool. So I kind of last minute reached out to a couple people. I think only one or two got back to me in time. So if the other people reach back out, obviously I'll put them on the next one.
Yeah, for sure.
But this is a follow-up to our last, maybe 2 episodes ago, I think, when you were giving shout-outs on Apple Podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
And
oh,
you responded, or you gave a shout-out to somebody who was...
Gnocchi.
The name was spelled
a
little funky.
N-O-E-K-K-E.
Right, and you
Yes.
gave it a shot. You gave it the good old college try.
Yeah.
And we didn't know if it was right or wrong, and so she reached out, let us know it was wrong. But like
okay,
in the
well.
nicest, funniest way. So it's actually, her name is Noelle.
Okay.
Noelle Kunkel. So I made sure to, so her little name is on her Instagram, so it's not like a private
Yeah,
thing. I'm not
know,
like calling her out,
doxing
but
her,
yeah.
you
So
know.
she reached out and she said, "Okay, I am all caps dying." She's like, "Ha ha 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 ha." In your latest episode today, you read my Apple Podcast shout out. My name is Noelle Kunkel, so I have no clue why my username on Apple Podcast shows up as Noeki Gnocchi. She said, "But it's me, haha." I can't stop laughing at being called gnocchi. She said, happens to be a favorite food of mine, so I'm all for it. She said, I'm going to
Awesome.
tell people to call me that from now on.
Well, Noelle Gnocchi Kunkel, welcome to the podcast again.
Yeah, welcome.
And,
So
I
funny.
wonder if if it's N-O-K-K-E on the review.
Yeah, she has no idea why it says that.
I mean,
don't
K
know.
and L are like one letter apart, so maybe there was
Who
some weird
knows?
typo.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
don't
the
know.
first Noelle,
right. So then we have another one, DL underscore JB 1983 says, great episodes, guys. Loving your podcast. I love your podcast so much. I look forward to each episode. Don't get rid of the banter. It makes the heavy shit feel a little less heavy.
You see?
Fuck them if they don't like
You
it.
see?
Yep.
I think we're growing a big old fuck 'em
I know.
to the people who don't like the banter.
I like it a lot. And honestly,
Fuck 'em.
love you guys, but even if you guys weren't the kind people that you are and reaching out to them,
Yeah,
we
we'd
still
probably
would be
still
doing
be
it
doing it.
anyway.
Sorry.
But we love the backup. Yes,
it's
we
nice
love
to
it.
hear that our approach to a true crime podcast
Right.
is being well received by, I don't know,
Yeah.
at least 50% of people.
Yeah, and I also wanted to just give a little shout out to the M3 True Crime Pod.
Oh yeah.
Murder, Mystery, and Mayhem, just because they do add us to their story and kind of advertise us
Yeah.
and throw our name out there somewhat frequently, and without us even asking or saying anything. So it's super nice of them. So we just want to say thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
and if I
Appreciate
remember, they have a good intro song too. Didn't someone post that them, us, and like one other podcast?
it. That
had, like,
was
their
them
favorite?
that posted that they
Oh,
like
okay.
ours.
All
Yeah,
right,
so that
well,
was super cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I do also have one shout out,
Ooh.
and this is from YouTube, and this is from Crime Dog.
Dog?
Crime
D-O-G?
Dog. Yes, just
Okay.
D-O-G. Very fitting. I mean, true crime.
Yep.
And this was in response to the first microdose episode that we did, where you talked about a pet duck. Oh no, I talked about a pet duck that led investigators to a
Cadaver
buried
duck,
body.
right?
Yes, exactly.
Cadaver
We talked
ducks.
about what kind of cadaver animals, and this has nothing to do with that part of the episode. But they just say, you guys are so chill, very easy to watch or listen to, and then a heart emoji, and love your
Aw.
channel. So, Crime Dog, thank you. Thank you for the comment.
you.
There will be an audio version of this uploaded to YouTube.
Yeah.
So, if you guys want to leave some comments on that, feel free, and
Yeah.
we will read them.
Yep. We're going to
Or-
do our best to do the video part too. It's just been a couple weird little period right now. So
yeah, we're transitioning.
we'll be back to
So-
rock your eyeballs here soon.
Ooh. Speaking of rocking eyeballs, how about we go ahead and get into today's episode?
Great segue. I did want to give a little shout out really quick, just because me and a longtime follower of the podcast, Nicolette Burrow,
Oh, yeah.
she did recommend this one to me. There are a couple others that people have sent to me that I have a list of, so don't worry, guys. I did not forget about anybody or anything. I'm not throwing anybody away, but this one is kind of a big one, and so I kind of wanted to do this one, and then I'll do some lesser known ones after this.
All right.
If you've heard it, great. It'll be our take on it. If not, it's new. Might freak you out. But I also did want to give a disclaimer for not only is this extremely graphic, so if you're not okay with torture, things like that, graphic things,
Okay.
wouldn't always maybe put some stuff in there, but I do feel it is necessary because it is a huge part of the case. I will maybe do a little warning kind of thing, skip ahead 30 seconds. I might throw that in there. If not, don't even want to risk it. Just we'll see on the next one kind of thing. And also the next little, I don't want to call it disclaimer, but heads up is that this is a foreign case, so some names will be hard for me. So
You got it.
I mean, obviously I'm
this.
going to try, but
Hey,
we're going to give it a whirl.
yeah, nothing can be worse than Yoki. right.
Well, we'll see. All right, so here we go. It's May 1999 in Hong Kong when a 14-year-old girl, referred to as Ah Fong for legal reasons, walks into a police station to make a bizarre report. She told police she was being haunted by the ghost of a dead woman. The woman she saw was covered in blood and was bound by electrical wires. Naturally, the police are skeptical, raising their eyebrows, kind of asking her, are you okay? What are you even talking about? They were probably maybe even slightly annoyed that she was wasting their time with this crazy story. They even thought she was on drugs, and rightfully so, because the police actually knew of this girl. She was known to be involved with some shady characters around town. So the police really thought she was on some type of substance. After not being believed, she finally broke down and told them the truth. The woman haunting her wasn't a ghost at all. It was a real woman who was murdered. She knew this because she was there when it happened. The police, still skeptical, asked her to show them what she was talking about. If it was real, she needed to prove it. So they followed her to a local apartment in the Kowloon district, and what they found not only proved Ah Fong was being truthful, but showed police something they would never forget, no matter how much they wanted to. When they walked in, they're greeted with a face full of Hello Kitty memorabilia. That's right, curtains, bed sheets,
Hello
hundreds, if not thousands of stuffed animals, towels, and even silverware. But the one that mattered most was an oversized Hello Kitty mermaid doll that just didn't look quite right. When opened, they found a woman's head. The same woman who had been haunting Ah Fong. So who was she? Well, Fan Man Yi had a rough upbringing. She was abandoned by her poor family and was brought up in a girls' home ran by the government with other orphan girls. Sadly, like a lot of these cases, these girls and children end up in bad situations even after leaving the homes. When she left, at the age of 15, she quickly formed a drug habit, which led to prostitution to feed the addiction. Around the age of 20 is when she tried to make some healthy changes in her life. She became the hostess at a nightclub where she hoped to turn her life around not only for her, but for her 1-year-old child and husband who had stuck with her through all of this. Now at this time, she was dabbling in drugs, but seemed to be consciously trying to change and fight the addiction. This brings us to 1997, when she meets a 34-year-old drug dealer / pimp named Chan Man Lok one night at the club she worked at. He had offered her work for him, but she was determined to stick to a clean lifestyle. Unfortunately, like many people battling addictions, she relapsed and ended up back in prostitution to pay for her expensive habit. She realized her funds were running low and, out of desperation, made the fatal mistake of contacting Chan Man Lok. When she was over at his house one night, she did something very stupid. She stole his wallet and the $4,000 that was inside of it. Well, I'm sure anybody knows that anybody involved in drugs, anything like that, they take their money very serious.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yep, exactly. He quickly realized he had been robbed and sent 2 of his men after her. His original plan was to kidnap her and force her to work for him to pay off her debts. It's not exactly what happened. Chan Man Lok, Lung Shicho, and Lung Wei Lun, his 2 henchmen, kidnapped Fan one night and drove her to a run-down abandoned apartment where they tied her up with electrical wire and began to beat her. Now, this is kind of where the whole torture and beating starts, so you can log out at this point if you want, but they used dirty rags they found nearby to gag her so nobody could hear her screams, just as extra precaution. During this subsequent torture and imprisonment, Chan Man Lok decided beating the crap out of her and forcing her to pay him off just wasn't quite enough. He wanted to make an example out of her for the other girls. For days, they kept her tied up with electrical wires, cutting into her arms and legs. Every day, they came up with new torture methods, beating her with iron rods, which broke her bones. Other times, just using their fists, and it only got worse. She would be punched and kicked until she lost consciousness, and then they even whipped her with electrical wires, causing deep cuts that forced her to bleed massive amounts. They waited until she would regain consciousness to continue beating her, just making sure that she felt everything.
Wow.
Once awake, they also rubbed chili powder in her open wounds. On top of everything, they also burned her flesh and the bottoms of her feet. It's also stated that at one point, Fan was made to eat the men's feces while they burned her with lighters. It wasn't just these 3 men taking part. Ah Fong, the young girl who reported the crime, was also involved. She would periodically show up and partake in the beatings. She said she thought it was, quote, just for fun. This is where I kind of put in here a whole, let's keep in mind she's 14.
Yeah.
Some reports say she's 13, most say 14. Either way, it's a young girl hanging out with older men. She's doing drugs. She's probably prostituting herself because he's a pimp.
And think if you are a 14-year-old girl right now.
And there's a lot of people when this came out that really went after her because they think she deserved a lot more than she gets in the end.
Yeah.
A lot more punishment, but also she's a child.
I mean, yeah, you hear
Not
the
an
same
excuse,
thing about
but-
like college kids too.
Yeah.
With hazing and things like that, where
Right.
it's like, it was just for fun, you know? And
Yep.
it's like, they actually know better. You're much
Right.
older than a preteen, pretty much.
Yep.
So, yeah, to think that a 14-year-old is just, I thought it was just for fun. I get that.
Yeah.
Like, she's not nearly well developed enough.
Right.
I mean, you know, when you start throwing in drugs and stuff, who knows
Yeah.
if she was under the influence? I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. In between torture sessions, the men hung out nearby in an apartment just across the hall where they drank and played video games to pass the time. It was roughly a whole month of torture for her. She eventually couldn't stand, move, or she didn't have any type of response physically. She was so weak from all the abuse that she had essentially become a living corpse. She was at the point where she no longer felt pain. Her body had become so numb to everything that the men had grown tired of her and saw no use for her any longer. One of them came up with an idea. Why not hang her from the ceiling and use her as a human punching bag? You've done everything else to her so far. I don't see why not. After a few days of this, they decided to go grab something to eat. When they returned, they found that she had already passed away, and her body had started the decomp process. Seeing her now as actually useless, they dragged her into the bathtub and began to dismember her. To avoid any suspicion due to smell or anything like that, they decided to boil the body parts on the stove to break down the dismembered parts. They then dumped all the boiled chunks into a bag and threw them out. They boiled her head separately, and after the flesh became soft enough, they removed all of the skin. Instead of throwing it out as well with everything else, they put her skull into the Hello Kitty mermaid dog and sewed it shut. Not only did they keep her head, they kept at least one of her teeth and some internal organs, which they kept in a sealed plastic bag in the fridge. Everything would have carried on as usual if it wasn't for Ah Fong. This brings us back to the beginning of our story, the point where her guilt takes over and she walks into the police department to confess. After the investigation takes place and they are able to corroborate her story by ways of evidence, this is when the trial begins. Of course, all three men pointed the fingers at each other, and they all denied being the one to actually kill her, while also trying to minimize their involvement during her disposal as well. The defense lawyers for all three men argued that Fan Man Yi could have died from a drug overdose, and that the men simply panicked and had to get rid of her. Her husband adamantly denies this, saying at the time of her death she was clean. Because her body was basically liquefied, the medical examiners weren't able to identify her actual cause of death. Because of this, the jury refused to convict the men on the basis that there was no proof of what actually happened to her. Due to this decision, the men were convicted on manslaughter charges and unlawful imprisonment, not murder, making their sentence only 20 years, with the possibility of parole, and that was back in 2000. So while researching this, I was like, oh shit, so they're out? Or they could have gotten out? But then I was like, I'm going to kind of maybe take a little bit of a deep dive. I couldn't find anything.
So up-to-date modern.
I'm guessing that they didn't. And they're not minors, so they wouldn't have any reason to hide any documents about them being released or their relocation or living under new names or anything like that. So I'm guessing, I mean, it's a possibility of parole. They're not saying you're released or anything. So I'm just guessing that they just denied parole.
Right. So the possibility of parole, you're saying after 20 years possibility? Okay.
Yep.
So what would the sentence be, though?
The sentence is 20 years with the possibility of parole.
No, so so
right.
They
so
are
if
for
you
sure
keep getting
out by now
denied,
then.
if you keep getting denied parole, then you stay in there. So you don't get to go. So you got 20 years with the possibility of parole. So you at least have to do 20 years, and then we'll talk about it kind of thing. We'll revisit it. And then
Is that? I thought usually it's after a certain, possibility of parole after a certain amount of years.
Right.
So it'd be like a lifetime sentence with the possibility of parole after 20 years. So they only had a 20-year sentence with the possibility of parole maybe after 5 years or 10 years.
That's not what stuff said.
Okay.
Yeah. It
Interesting.
said 20
So
years,
after
possibly
20
referral. Yeah. So you
After
at
20
least have to
years,
do
right.
that.
So they could still be in prison, or what you're saying?
I didn't find anything that they were released.
Interesting.
Yes. So I'm guessing, that's when you can probably start appeals and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, they, just like our kind of justice system, they revisit it.
Yeah.
They decide, oh, no, you're definitely a fucking threat to society. You're staying in there.
Yeah.
And then you can do it again the next year. I mean, I don't know how the Chinese government does it.
I was going to say, you're also talking about in
Right.
China, where it seems like fucking anything goes over there.
Yeah.
There's no real, there's no real public justice system. It is, what does the government feel fit for you?
Yeah, or how
there?
much money do you have, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a lot of places, not just China. But
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Coming as no shock to anyone, a court-appointed psychiatrist found that all 3 men suffered from psychosocial behavioral disorders, which basically means they have no emotions and they are incapable of feeling remorse for anything they've done. The young girl, Ah Fong, was absolved of any charges and released with no punishment due to the fact that she had been such a huge asset to the case. And basically, they only had a case because of her.
Right.
So this is kind of a little side note that I found, that there was a couple videos and a couple websites that had mentioned that we're going to kind of go back to the Urbaumeister thing here on our last one, or one before last, whatever, where there is a little bit of a paranormal overlap here.
Okay.
I'm not saying anything because I know some people are like, screw that, you're insane. I'm just reporting what I've seen and heard on the internet, okay? So it said that people in the apartment complex where the murder had happened started experiencing some strange events. A young couple who weren't aware of the murder rented an apartment on the 4th floor where this happened and reportedly started feeling hands touching them and hearing women's crying coming from the apartment next door. It wasn't until later that they realized that it had been vacant the whole time, leaving them to wonder where the cries had been coming from.
And this is in the aftermath of the...
Mm-hmm. Shortly after.
Huh.
Some other residents also reported seeing an actual female ghost in the stairwell of the building as well. Not only this, but the salon located in the 2nd and 3rd floor of the building reported finding Hello Kitty dolls in their salon after they had already closed up from the night before.
No. Get me the fuck out of there.
One night, after checking the security footage, cameras had actually captured a dark figure right behind the manager of the salon after he locked up, following him out of the building. All of this added up, and eventually everyone moved out of the building, too afraid to live there anymore.
Oh, no. Go ahead. Continue.
It's just this last little part. The building sat vacant and abandoned until it was finally torn down in 2012 because nobody would live there or anything.
All right, yeah. If there's security footage, this is like I cannot imagine the feeling of if a possible like ghost or apparition is around you, caught on camera, and while you're watching it.
Right.
Because I remember, I must have been 12, 13 years old. I was watching the movie Signs with Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where it's like it flashes up and you see the aliens on top of the barn.
Yeah.
But it's a super dark scene.
Yeah.
And so the first time I watched this movie, it didn't even affect me. I was like, I don't even know what that scene was.
Yeah.
Because the TV I was watching on it didn't have like the contrast enough to show. Then I watched it on like a different, like a monitor or something. And then I saw it and the sinking gut or feeling in my gut when I saw like the alien, I don't know, it like freaked me the hell out. And that was a movie about aliens, right? So I could not imagine seeing me on video, like in one of these episodes, and then all of a sudden there's like a figure behind us that neither of us know. Or both of us know that nothing was there for sure, you know? So I don't know what that would be like. I don't want to ever know.
If anybody ever wants to talk about ghosts, reach out to me. We could do a mini episode. I have ghost and
stories.
alien episodes, you guys, or
I'm 100%
stories.
on board. If people want to hear that, we'll do that in microdose.
Yeah. I have real life experiences. You can think I'm crazy all you want. I don't care. This shit really happened.
She's crazy.
There's people that back me up. I'm telling you, I'll get it on video.
True.
Anyway, Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But I want to throw that in there because it was actually like a pretty big part of this at the end. It was mentioned a few places.
And also, again, going back to the fact that it is in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of like, I guess, religion. I don't know what you would call it over there, but a belief in an afterlife to where hauntings, I feel like, would affect them even more than like around here where you have to, I guess, actually believe in it.
Yeah.
Almost like
I
religion.
agree.
I could just imagine Hong Kong, and you just tear down a building because nobody will live in it.
Yeah.
They'll live in like little shacks over there.
Right.
And this entire building was vacant.
Yeah.
I think they're onto something.
Right. I mean, maybe not Hong Kong has shacks because it's just such a populated city, but maybe outside of it, I don't know.
For how populated it is.
This sounds so ignorant.
Small
We're
Hong
just
Kong
like,
is.
we've never been there. We're just going based off movies we've seen.
I know Hong Kong, or that's got like 4 times the amount of people that Seattle does, and people live in shacks here. So
true. Different kinds of shacks.
Yes, yeah, very much so.
Yeah, people are still getting iPhones in the shacks over here in Seattle.
True.
So people are wearing Nikes.
They're giving them the iPhones in here.
Oh, God. Anyway, so that is the story.
Wow.
Part of me feels like it kind of was rushed through, but it was all very, like... Straightforward. There really isn't too much here. Like, we know who did it. There's so much evidence.
It's really... So, we had to take a quick break there because one of our cats was freaking out. And in that quick second, I looked up the case to kind of figure out the whole life sentence versus like parole thing.
Tell me.
And so sure enough, it was a life sentence with the possibility of parole after 20 years. It just says that they mention the I guess judge who sentenced them to life. So,
yeah, the 20 years was highlighted so many different places. And that's so weird.
We've just come up upon the 20 years.
Yeah.
Just a couple years ago, so it's like
right.
Who knows? And especially with, COVID and especially over there lockdowns and stuff, they might just be getting out now.
True.
So
or
who knows?
Hopefully
obviously they're out,
denied.
But
yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry. They could be getting out.
Right.
Now. Yeah, it's very interesting to think that is for the approach for the prosecutors to be like, she could have died from anything, like it could have been a drug overdose. From the defense.
But also her husband, how I mentioned that he was like, no, she was clean.
Yeah.
But then why did she go to him?
Yeah.
Kind of the thing. But that could just be something where she was hiding it from him, obviously. He's probably in denial. His wife just got friggin' liquefied. I'm sorry, but there's no trace left of her for you to bury.
Well, for tips for people how to survive, obviously don't steal, don't get involved with drug dealers. Don't steal from them, and don't be the first one to do it and get caught because they're gonna make a lesson out of you, I guess. But also,
how about just stay away from all that,
Yeah,
just to be safe.
It's disturbing that people think that the defense would go that route.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's all they have to cling on to.
Right, and I get maybe the whole, if their defense was just like, hey, she ended up dying because of drugs that they gave her, and they were like, we just got to get rid of her. But all the torturing and the head and the Hello Kitty.
No, obviously, I mean, the psychiatrist was like, yeah, they're insane. So, makes sense.
Okay, well...
I guess even, too, one thing that I forgot to put in there was that it was also stated, but not proved, that they fed some of her body parts to the dogs, too. Just trying to get rid of it, kind of thing.
I wouldn't put it past them if that is what they did. Like, come on. I mean, you're telling me the worst that you've done much worse.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Anything to get rid of the evidence, I suppose.
So I already had heard about this case before. I didn't really know that there was that much torture involved in it. I just knew that there was something to do with Hello Kitty and a girl was murdered. So
as you started getting into the details of it, I had I guess heard of this once before, but I started thinking it was a different case.
Oh.
Based on the details, but then I realized, wait, this was in Hong Kong, so it's definitely not that case.
Oh.
So that might be the case that I end up covering next.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But that is, talk about...
just unnecessary.
So unnecessary, and that's where I think the whole, making a lesson out of her,
right,
and teaching teaching people
Yep.
don't fuck with the
Right.
big dog in town or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Something else I had seen too is once again, I'm not trying to like drag this out, but this just came to me, is that something else they had mentioned was his original plan was, I'm going to take her and make her work for me and pay off her debts.
Right.
I don't, just part of me doesn't think that was ever going to be
No.
the case. The way that some of these videos have broken it down is that it would have been impossible for her to pay him back, because they don't charge that much for certain like acts in prostitution. Like,
Okay,
it's
yeah.
more just like, we're just trying to get any kind of money. It's not like $5,000 for,
years.
it would have been a really long time. And obviously pimps take like all of it. So she would have like never been able to survive off of anything. She would have like never been able to come home. Like, it's just, I think his whole plan was just, I'm mad and I'm gonna punish you.
Yeah, that was
which clearly he
ruse
did
to get her in the building, and then he knew exactly what they were gonna do.
So yeah, anyway, so
Fuck those dudes. Hopefully they're still rotting in prison.
yeah.
I mean, who knows? I'm not gonna comment on anything in China, but it's like
China.
Yeah, you hope that they are like, we need to keep these guys off the streets.
Yeah, you would freaking think so. Dear God. Anyway,
you just never fucking know. Well, thank you again, as we say every time. It feels weird saying thank you for telling me a story. So I guess gruesome, gross, and sad and tragic.
Right.
And how old was Fan again?
Oh, Fan was in her 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she obviously had a husband. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
super
I mean,
sad. Obviously her losing her life, but what the 14-year-old gal is going through too. I mean.
Oh yeah.
She's saying she was haunted. I mean, the story starts with her feeling like she's being haunted by this woman. Mm-hmm. She's probably still being haunted by her.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they finally convicted the people who did this to her.
Right.
She's probably still suffering.
Yep.
So. Well, again, thank you.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I hope everybody else enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And you got anything else to say to the folks out there in the podcast world?
No, just shout out to people that keep sending me cases us cases. Feel free. Reach out. I love this stuff. And there are some, there's one or two people that have reached out, just kind of like, hey, I would think that you would find this interesting. Mm-hmm. And they are honest and say, like, there's really not a lot on this, but it's still interesting. And so maybe we could do a microdose episode about that. Maybe we could go back and forth. I know sometimes in these last few, we haven't really talked about too much crime stuff, but that's kind of what I like about it. It's kind of a nice, like, reprieve in the middle. Yep. But maybe we could do a microdose where we just talk about like a couple mini episodes.
Stories or something like
super
that.
Small ones.
Yeah, if you guys have anything, again, that's kind of like would be a perfect I guess platform for those stories that don't have a lot to it.
Yep.
And if you guys have something interesting, or if it's a local for you that you feel like hasn't gotten any traction at all, solved, unsolved, just let us know, because obviously we have the means to talk about it. So, all right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Thanks, guys.
Our animals seem to have been taming themselves in a way that I don't appreciate.
Yeah, it's only when we do this.
I know.
I don't understand.
What's the thing where anything that can go wrong will go wrong? Mm-hmm. Charlie Murphy's Law.
Sure.
Like
you're the smart one in
Charlie
the group.
Murphy. So. Well, I'm in a brain fog episode, so...
Yet you're still smarter than me.
Don't know what you're talking about. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm Riley. That's Christian. And then we got Tito talking to himself over there.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll talk to you in the next one, I suppose.
Catch you on the flippity flip.
Adios.